I'm sober now. I'm doing this process to live my life. If there's a God or a universal consciousness or divine intelligence, please show me where you want me. So I got really into meditation. And as the story goes, I started having this recurrent thought that maybe my brother would fire me. And I thought, why though? We get along. I don't know why that would happen, but it kept coming. Then I had this other thought that, um, why I'm so well traveled. Maybe there's some rich guy that needs me to travel with him, help him stay sober. And I'm telling you, these thoughts kept coming. And I was doing this Wayne Dyer awe meditation for manifestation. You literally go, I've talked about this so much. And you envision what you're trying to manifest, the energy coming through your root chakra, out your third eye. And I said, this is too painful not playing music anymore. I feel like in my soul, I'm supposed to be out there playing. When I would watch people play, it would be painful. Like I should be doing this. So I said, I want to get back into music. Well, my brother fired me out of nowhere. Within 10 days of that, a guy called me who was a friend of mine from Hong Kong and said, I need you to help me stay sober. I'm traveling. I'm not. That was the thing. And then within 10 days, I got a text from Korn saying, hey, will you come play guitar with us? And I was like, wow, this meditation shit really works.
Welcome back to Recovery Today magazine. This is Jen Sugarmeyer bringing you stories of strength and hope. And we are here today with Wes Geer. Wes, we are so excited. It's actually kind of a fun story of how you and I connected. And I found that just the recovery community in general is kind of like this, and we overlap, and it's amazing how many people I come across. But you and I actually have a mutual friend, and we happen to be sitting down in Austin, which is where neither of us live, nor does he. And you happen to come up in conversation. And so that's actually why we're here today, or how we're here today. And so we're really looking forward to
Are you going to tell the audience who our mutual friend is?
Don. So Don worked with you many years ago when you were with Korn. And so he had so many great things to say. It happened to come up that I do interviews for the magazine, and he said, you know who you got to talk to? And I said, that would be great. I'd love to talk to him. So that's how this has
Don B, security to the stars.
That's right. That's right.
Not that I'm a star, but the people he works with are.
He does. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how this all began. Anyone who's listening is familiar with Korn. Maybe they've heard of Head PE. And so you've been a musician for 20 plus years. What I found fascinating is that you've been to 42 countries. And I think maybe that was at least just with Korn.
I think it's up to 65 now or something.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I hit my 50th, but this year, but it was cool. Not from touring the world. That was
it's probably cooler because, tour, there's like countries like Prague where I've been there, or cities like, Prague that I've been there 3 times and never got to see the place because it's like in and out.
Yeah. Well, you can always go back. Make sure you eat bacon wrapped prunes in Prague. They're incredible. Trust me.
I might make exception on my diet just for that.
Just for that. Just for that. Absolutely. So you are an incredible musician, and you continue to carry this on, and you have really pivoted, I guess, your purpose, if I can say that, your purpose in life. And we're going to get into that with your Rock to Recovery and all the things that you're doing. But I just want to take a step back because I always love musicians. I grew up, my friends growing up, I was in somebody's garage listening to a garage band somewhere. So tell me what it was like. You're from California. What does it look like to be Wes back when you started out? Tell us what this looks like.
Yeah, well, by the time I could actually play a couple chords, we did have a garage band with no singer and never had a singer, and just turn up the amps loud, play really bad. But that was fun. I mean, flashback comes to mind because back then it wasn't so easy to record yourself. We actually hung a boom box off a rafter with a bungee cord, thinking that if it was in the middle of the air, it would sound better. And that's how, that's how it started with technology on that level.
Do you have pictures of this boombox hanging
There's
from?
one, well, that's a frame I have in my mind. There's like one like Polaroid instant photo I saw. Who knows where that photo went, but it was all of us standing there looking up, 17 years old at this boombox, listening back to what we recorded. Yeah,
Nice.
with not a good song. I do know the song and it was not good, but hey, that's what you get, everybody
Got to
starts.
start somewhere. Got to start somewhere. So, did you come from a musical family, or how did you end up just kind of picking this
I
up?
did. Well, and then another story about that, which is funny, is we would jam in our drummer's garage, and I had a big amp cabinet, and he was probably 2 miles away, and I pushed my amp cabinet all the way up the hill because he lived on the top of the hill to his house. So that's how we rolled. Got to go to any lengths to get where you want to
Did you
go.
put it on a skateboard and
No,
roll
it
it up?
actually had wheels. Thank
You had
God.
wheels.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, the family was musical. I grew up with, church music, like classical. My grandfather was classically trained, and he was the director of the music at the church, which that was actually in Massachusetts. When I was 5, I was there, lived there for a few years, and so the region and the, very classical type church, big stone building, and he was the music director there, and pipe organ and all that stuff. So it was very normal for me to be around, classical and hymn music and stuff. And it's very beautiful. Obviously, you have so many great composers in that realm. But it wasn't until I heard my brother play Smoke on the Water by why can't I? Oh, Deep Purple, I want to say, yeah. Or was it Rainbow? Deep Purple. Anyhow, one of the two bands. People at home are probably like, you idiot. Anyhow, it's a very like it has a flat 5, so it's like down, down, new. And that caught my ear, that little kind of dark and edgy sound. And so that kind of it planted the seed that I wanted to play guitar.
Now, was this an older brother of yours?
It was my older brother, Jim. Yes, yes. I mean, that's the only time I ever remember hearing him play guitar, but it was one important time, apparently.
So you picked up a guitar and that was more or less the genre that you gravitated towards?
Yeah, so we were moving we moved back to California. My parents were, relocating from time to time to give us a better life and upgrade our life, but that put me in a position where I was like the new kid a lot in school, and so I picked up the guitar about 14 because I started hearing like Eddie Van Halen, Iron Maiden, Dead Kennedys, Sex Pistols, and I was like, man, I was just drawn to the guitar. I want to make these sounds that I hear coming out these speakers. So guitar became my best friend. It can be awkward in junior high and high school for kids socially anyhow, and then you may give me who can be socially insecure like anybody, especially with alcoholism or whatever that is, that gene in there. And so it just was the perfect storm for I just started getting stoned, play guitar all day, and I was good.
So this was in high school is when you started smoking and just relaxing and an introvert as well. Is that
I
fair to
don't know
say?
if I would call it
Maybe.
relaxing because it was, but I don't know. When I was young, smoking weed, it was a pretty heavy experience, and it wasn't even as much THC as it is these days. But I was just shy. I had probably some abandonment issues. I don't have take a lot of joy in naming it because I don't want to sound like a victim, but in going through my life and processing and learning and healing and going to the therapist, I can see why I have certain trigger points. And it was like missing the love of my father and not feeling good enough. And, some of those which maybe are atypical, adding with the typical time of life and feeling awkward as the new kid in school and stuff like that. So I think it was just a lot of social anxiety, really.
So did you write lyrics? I know you said in the band that you had, you didn't have a singer, but did you put lyrics to the song or were you mostly
I
just
mean,
creating chords?
always wrote lyrics. I never thought they were too good, but I've always been a big fan of poetry, and it's also been a way I've expressed myself. It's kind of like an artful way to, of course, journaling is amazing, right? And
Mhm.
very therapeutic for me. Like writing lyrics or poems was good, trying to get my feelings on paper. The problem is if you journal, you don't really judge it, it's just raw. But when you write lyrics and you're trying to put your emotions down in an artsy poetic way, it's kind of like, well, that's horrible, and you sound like a depressed little kid. or whatever. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, but yeah, absolutely. I ask because it is such a therapeutic thing to do. So when you were making songs and chords and riffs and all that,
Mhm.
was there did you get the feeling of, this is something going on in my life, or like what was behind some of those, or was it just this sounds cool and I'm just going with it?
That's a great question. I think that, there's a level of unconsciousness that kids have. They don't know
Mhm.
why they do what they do, and I think part of the human journey is to become more conscious. I think meditation and stuff helps with that, to like not just react or be in a thought or an action or whatever, but really be conscious of what's going on in our body and our feelings and our mind. And so I don't think I was super aware at that age, but I think I did have somewhat of an awareness of there's an emotion coming out here. Why, I don't know, or whatever, but I was drawn to expressing. And, I remember that even the shitty songs I would write just on guitar, like a couple guitar parts. I mean, we're talking where I would play guitar, record it on a cassette recorder, and then play along with myself playing back. They would move me emotionally, sometimes to tears. But I didn't think much about it. I guess I probably just thought like, wow, this is moving me emotionally. Maybe it's good, you know?
Mhm.
And so that's why, though, I've always been drawn to music that's kind of dramatic and maybe a little bit dark and passionate and stuff. I've never been really much of a pop guy, and I'm really turned off by joke bands. And I know it's fun to have bands that are silly, like a Primus or a Ween or whatever.
Mhm.
But that's not where I'm at. I want the chills to go here. I want to be moved and tap into
Mhm.
that feeling that's down in there.
Yeah, I saw a meme, I guess a meme or GIF or whatever, not too long ago, and it says some people hear the music, other people feel the music, and that's how I am. I come from a musical family as well, and there's just something when it hits your soul, and it just it triggers memories and healing. There's a connection there. So as I was researching a bit about head PE.
You said it right. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. I learned PE was planet Earth. That's also, but Wiki, they categorized it as, and I had not heard this, G punk. Is this a
Yeah.
term you're familiar with? G punk?
I made
Although
up that term,
you
actually.
did. All right. Well, Wiki got it right then.
Yeah, so what it was when we were forming Head, the singer and I were trying to figure out, we had came out of the late 80s, early 90s, the glam was dying, the Seattle scene was starting to bang, and music was just transforming. Nine Inch Nails, Nirvana, Soundgarden, all this kind of stuff was coming out. Gangster rap was landing in a big way. Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre,
Mm,
NWA. And we really wanted to fuse some angsty, edgy punk stuff that we liked, along with, obviously, we liked, I don't like the name metal, but that harder, heavier rock riff stuff, along with gangster rap. We liked the melody and like just like there's a lot of really sick, sinister keyboard lines in there, and they also kind of sample a lot of R&B and a lot of oldies, and we were really into that as well. So um, they were calling it G Funk, right? Snoop and Dre were calling it G Funk. So instead of P Funk, which was Parliament Funkadelic, which they sampled a lot,
mm,
they were calling it G Funk for gangster rap funk, because that's what it was. It was a hybrid. So we were calling it G Punk, which we weren't gangsters, but that was an ode to like, we're really into gangster rap and we're fusing it with punk, which, that movement of music got really massive, and then it kind of got gross because everybody was doing it and not so well, and then it went away. But now, as music is coming back, you're watching all these bands now fusing punk rock and a lot of this trap stuff, so it hasn't gone away.
yeah. Yeah. And that was a great time for music. I'm a little biased because that was, I think you gravitate towards what you were, in high school and things like that. So that was a great time for music. So so you were with them for 8 years. Is that right? And
We
touring?
formed that band in about 94, got a record deal, I want to say, in 97, and we toured until I left the band in 2003. They're still out there. The singer's doing his thing with the name and the brand, but I bounced in 2003.
Okay. So let's segue into this, because I think that if so you left the band for personal reasons. There were things that were going on. So can you talk to us a little bit about what was going on in your life up until that point, and what it looked like kind of maybe the last few years when you were with Head PE?
Well, that journey is really interesting, and what we learn in life as we look back on any occurrence in our life, you can have multiple perspectives on it, like not just one, like, oh, I see it in a new light. Well, in another 5 years, you're going to see another new light and another one. And that's just kind of how it does. It gets reframed as you grow and evolve. But the journey of Head PE was I was kind of like just a weekend warrior partier, and I had so many shitty bands. And then when we formed Head PE, right in the beginning, when we were trying to mastermind our sound, I discovered methamphetamine, and I started doing meth and staying up all night and learning drum machines and all this stuff and writing some really good art, creating some really good art. And it was working for our band. And so we went from all these crappy bands to now this band that's selling out local clubs, and I'm doing meth every day. So you can't tell me I have a problem. And, I always try to reframe it for anybody who might be listening at home. You might go, well, I wasn't in a band. I didn't do meth. Yeah. But did you do Adderall and go to school and go, I don't have a problem because I'm acing these tests on Adderall? I mean, there's a point where it works for us in our life and we're having success. That's why we do it. And so we got a record deal. And over the course of that next, 8 or 10 years, it was me trying to control my drinking and using. In the earlier part of the band, there was an instance with a girl that I just, swept under the rug, and then later felt moved to talk to my singer about it, and it didn't go well, and it destroyed the band. And, was that directly a result of my drinking and using? No, but would that have happened if I had been healthier and whatever? I mean, probably not. And, even, I was just talking to my friend about being an entrepreneur and stuff, and the entrepreneur mindset. What happened for me as a budding alcoholic was, once I could quit the day job and just focus on music the whole time, it was like, oh, good, now I can party nonstop. Basically, I got to play the show and be okay and write some music, and I can be wasted and write music. So it really gave me a carte blanche for my addiction and my using to go to another level. Meanwhile, I was having the success. So, we were playing with bands like Slipknot and Linkin Park and whatever, all sorts of these bands, and System of a Down. And those guys a lot of them didn't really drink or use. And after the show, they were in their bus working on new music. And so, like, arguably, if I had gone into it like, this is a big deal. You got a record deal. Let's invest in your future and really, figure out how to monetize and get into the details of the tour budget and where can we find profit centers. But I wasn't doing that, So did that band and that end directly because of my drinking and using? No, but years later, even as recently as a few days ago, I realized how much addiction really played a part, as opposed to if I was in it now, I would be all over every aspect of it, really cherishing it and trying to squeeze the most out of it in the most entrepreneurial way. So basically, we could never mend fences as much as we tried. The inner relationships of the band went from a brotherhood to very just sick, dark, confrontational. And I tried to hang in as long as I could. And then finally I left. Towards the end of that, I was staying away from the meth and just drinking heavy and trying to go to my bunk and not cause any problems, because I was already kind of noted as a problem child. So, I'm trying to control and enjoy my drinking. But once I left the band, I was so destroyed emotionally in ways I couldn't understand, because that was my baby. I mean, yes, did all the guys work and dedicate their life to the band? Sure. Mm-hmm. But for me, I was a founding member of this company. And so therefore it's my baby, just like it's his baby, but it felt like I lost my child. I lost my identity. I didn't know who I was anymore. And I got a day job that felt like just not where I was supposed to be. And so then my drug use went up again. And this time it was meth and heroin. And then finally I crashed and burned and ended up in a rehab. Thank God.
So that's a lot to unpack. So when did you
I
when
just
did you leave? When did music become full time? When you left your full time job and you said, "All right, now I
yeah,
have
that
freedom.
probably
We're
was
going into
97,
97." Okay.
97, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then when you left the band, so you were the only one that was choosing to use or drink at the level that you were.
We were known as a hard partying band. The singer and I were both on meth all day, every day, writing music together. Other guys dabbled on varying degrees. We all took lots of mushrooms. We all took acid. I mean, I mean, when we would come on a tour, people would be like, oh, and we didn't know because we grew up with other artists who we've really had a shift in consciousness because the artists we grew up and heard about, you heard all the stories of how wasted they got or
Mhm.
what Lynn Straight from Snot did on Ozfest and like these. And so we thought that's how you roll.
Right.
And when we got out and tried to get tours and we get on tours, people were like, oh man, we heard about you guys. And we were like, what? Aren't we just doing rock and roll out here? So we were known as some maniacs.
Yeah. It's interesting because that is the perception. And in many respects, I mean, there's been many individuals that we've interviewed and that's been their reality. So what do you think? I mean, can you talk to, I mean, these bands that, I mean, that are sober, that are out there, that are doing the thing. I mean, what do you think was the difference? Is there anything that you can think that you can pinpoint to say, yeah, they understood these things, or they just decided not to drink, or they were advised? Like, why are they different? Where
Uh,
anything you
well,
can pinpoint?
I believe alcoholism's a disease as it's outlined. I've definitely looked at, they talk about having an allergy where when I drink something, it produces the phenomenon of craving. And I've experienced that so many times, and, an addiction and alcoholism are progressive diseases. So, to contrast, there's probably a lot of people out there that are potential alcoholics, but their life doesn't allow them to be
Mhm.
right? Because they're too busy, they have too many
Right.
responsibilities, they got to drive the kid and go to work, so they just can't drink. But a
Yeah.
lot of those people in time later in life turn into alcoholics because it takes a lot slower or a
Mhm.
lot longer time, excuse me, to progress. And some of the bands I mentioned, like Slipknot, had a rule nobody could do drugs and et cetera, et cetera. They had a pact with each other. And then one of their guys, who was a dear friend, Paul Gray, ended up OD.
Mhm.
So some people come in with a mindset or mentality and still got hung up. Corey Taylor, he's sober. We honored him at the Rock to Recovery event. Um, Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park, he's no longer with us. And I was really tight with him on the level of like, I saw that, for lack of a better word, demon inside of him. He's the sweetest guy ever. But when we would party, I would see how it's like, yeah, there's this like pain that wants to come out, and we just get a little crazier. So I think that the one thing with being in a band is that it really gives the opportunity to cultivate and let the addiction and the disease of addiction and alcoholism progress, because you have every day you're on tour, you have an opportunity to party every single night. You're adding in things like massive success and money. You're adding in things like everybody who's just like, oh, you're the greatest, and do whatever you want, and here's this, want some more beer, and it really is is a insanely steroid filled petri dish,
Mm.
to let addiction and alcoholism progress.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth? So you leave the band.
And
You've
let's
been
face it, sorry to interrupt. One other thing I just want
uh-huh.
to say, a
Go
lot
for it.
of people are drawn to be artists because they have emotional issues. The art, a lot of times, for our greatest artists, comes from a place of pain.
Mm.
So if you add, like, Chester Bennington was very open about his childhood. Jonathan Davis, very open about his childhood. You add these hurting souls that probably need some sort of soul healing into
Mhm.
the aforementioned world, right? So
Yeah, yeah, it's a breeding ground. Yeah, absolutely. So when you left the band, you'd been on tour, you had experienced what a lot of people only ever dream about, and now you get a regular job. I'm so curious, what is a regular job in corporate or wherever you were? What does that look like for someone who's been a musician?
Well, I barely graduated high school. And when I was kind of floating around, I got fired from Domino's, Carl's Jr., McDonald's, a lot of places. I finally got a job at an insurance company that my mom worked at doing data entry. And I kind of got my shit together for a little while. I got off the weed, I quit smoking cigarettes, and I kind of thrived. And that took me in the corporate setting. I had long hair and a ponytail with a tie, and I kind of was kicking ass for a while. So I had aptitude and ability.
Mhm.
And I was managing a crew of data entry people, then record deal, et cetera, et cetera. Well, when I left the band, as soon as I came home, I was, a lot of artists leave a band and they go right into another band. I was smart enough or dumb enough, whatever. I was just like, well, how are you going to make money with another band? Like, I need to get some income. I had a decent apartment and stuff. And so I didn't want to go on the street. So I called my brother who was in Huntington Beach, and he's a sales rep for high-end audio gear.
Mhm.
So music related, not really, but it is. And I said, man, I need a job. Okay, cool. Come on in here. So that's what it was. But it was just soul crushing. It was, audio gear. This is Wes. Can I help you? Yeah, we need 19 wireless systems sent to Chicago for our show. Okay, cool. And I'm all on drugs. And, the beauty of it is I did learn skills that later came into play in life, which was, things like Google Drive and the cloud and VPNs and
Mhm.
whatever lands and all that, which thank God I learned that stuff. But while I was there, I was miserable. But I was really, it pushed me into things like meditation and stuff, because I just wanted to connect and go, okay, where do you want me? And that's really always my biggest prayer in life. Where do you want me?
So you are at this job and at some point you've made the decision, this is not working for me.
I was there 6 years,
Wow.
and I not having any degree, and my brother paid me a nice check, especially more than I deserved for the limited skills I had. And it was right up the street from right across the street from my apartment. I was doing really well. And sometimes I was just like, I'll just be honest, I was like, fuck this place. What am I, but then it's like, where are you gonna go, dude? What job are you gonna get? And I had, there was a couple things at play. One was, I feel like I'm supposed to create something. I
Mhm.
feel like I'm supposed to create or invent something. So I constantly had ideas that I was trying or pitching or putting on Craigslist and stuff. Um, but like I said, it really drove me, because at this point now I'm sober a couple of years, and I'm a 12 stepper. And in the 12 steps, the 11th step is we seek through prayer and meditation to further our conscious contact with God. And so, really, I felt desperate that that's all I had left. Like, okay, I'm sober now. I'm doing this process to live my life. If there's a God or a universal consciousness or divine intelligence, please show me where you want me. So I got really into meditation. And as the story goes, I started having this recurrent thought that maybe my brother would fire me. And I thought, why though? We get along. I don't know why that would happen, but it kept coming. And then I had this other thought that, um, why I'm so well traveled. Maybe there's some rich guy that needs me to travel with him, help him stay sober. And I'm telling you, these thoughts kept coming. And I was doing this Wayne Dyer awe meditation for manifestation. You literally go, ah, I've talked about this so much. And you envision what you're trying to manifest, the energy coming through your root chakra, out your third eye. And I said, this is too painful not playing music anymore. I feel like in my soul, I'm supposed to be out there playing. When I would watch people play, it would be painful. Like, I should be doing this. So I said, I want to get back into music. Well, my brother fired me out of nowhere. Within 10 days of that, a guy called me who was a friend of mine from Hong Kong, said, I need you to help me stay sober. I'm traveling. I'm like, that was the thing. And then within 10 days, I got a text from Korn saying, hey, will you come play guitar with us? And I was like, wow, this meditation shit really works.
Wow. And just like that.
And just like that, well, and as the timeline goes, though, it took me 6 months to get that Corn gig, and that was a whole other testimony to what I had been taught in recovery. The old stoner me would have been, because Monkey reached out to me, their guitar player, and said, I want you in the band, but it wasn't going down. The decisions weren't made at the top level, or whatever you want to call it. And the stoner me would have been like, I don't know, bro, they haven't called me. But this version of me was like, I'm aware, I'm sober. And it was like, okay, I've known other successful people. I've analyzed the careers of some people. And what I noticed is, I haven't shared this very often, but I love this thing I kind of figured out, which was everybody I knew that had jobs I envied or loved, which was like, wow, look at that. I noticed that there was a common denominator. They had some talent. They got a lucky opportunity, maybe that comes up very rarely, but when they were given that opportunity, they went like above and beyond and blew it out of the water. One was my brother getting the Shure Microphones account and how he went in there and interviewed in a way nobody interviewed. The other was my ex, who started helping maintain Britney Spears' wardrobe and turned that into being a designer and a fashion stylist. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to sit around. I recorded myself playing every Korn song and flew out to the shows and was like, I'm here. I can play this shit. What's up? And then kind of nudged meetings and let them know I'm sober and I'm not an asshole, or because when what people don't know is a big part of why you get gigs is not you're playing, because a lot of people can play. There's a lot of people that can play that part you're playing. It's more so, are you annoying to be around? Can you fit into the vibe of the band? Do you respect? Are you going to be a pain in the ass? And so what they had, Korn knew me from back in the day, and my name had come up before, and they're like, oh, hell no, that guy's a maniac. Well, my name came up again, and they were like, oh, we hear he's sober. So I was flying out there going, what's up, you guys? And they could see the light and the presence, and that's how it happened.
Had you played with them before? Had you met them before? How did
that? They play clubs with them back in the day. Yeah.
Okay. So they heard you were on the market or not playing.
Yeah. So that's why Monkey, sorry, I'm putting my phone on my computer on do not disturb. I got a call. That's why Monkey reached out, because we all played clubs together, and he said, you're one of my favorite guitar players. I'd love you to come play with us. But, getting the whole band and the whole, machine on board with making a change in the middle of a tour cycle is not something people are excited to do.
So you started mid-tour with them.
Yeah. Well, and what was happening is, usually tours, you go out for a month and it's with this band, then you come on an album cycle, right? You might tour for 6 months or 2 years, depending, but you see lineup, North America tour with this band. Now we're going to Japan with this band. So I would see them come home and leave. And meanwhile, I wasn't being implemented, and I'm going, I got to get on this. So I actually, in LA is the worst place to see a band because everybody's there, right? All the labels and cool guys or whatever, or New York. So I was like, I'm going to catch them on the end of this tour in North Carolina and Virginia or wherever they were, that is going to be a chill show. You know what I mean? And so I can really get some FaceTime.
So you just text them and you say, hey, I'm here.
I'm coming out.
You want to jam? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, actually Don V, this is great. This circles back. He was a big help because he was really tight and still is with the Korn crew and the Korn guys. And so he could give me some little insider information, just kind of like, here's what I think you should do. You got to come out and jam with Monkey. Yeah, he thinks you're great, but until he jams with you, he probably won't have enough faith that it can work. And so it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to come out for this chunk of tour. Can you help me put this together? And then they had another guy working for him, Danny Hamcam, who was also a friend, and he thought of me as a great player and a definite candidate for the job. So I had some people on the inside kind of saying, here's what you could do. Yeah, come out. I'll tell Monkey you're going to ride on the tour bus that night. And yeah.
Yeah, I love it. You start playing with the band. What is your experience like now that you're sober and you're playing versus your experience previously when you were doing whatever you were doing?
That's a great question. When people used to ask me back in the day with Head, we played some big shows, and they'd say, do you have stage fright? I'd be like, no, I don't stage fright. Well, yeah, that's because I was drinking very large glasses of Jack and what's just one drink, it's like 9 drinks in there, Jack and Cokes. So, and it also Head was my band, our band. So if I screw up, hey, Wes, you kind of suck tonight. Let's get them tomorrow night kind of thing. But with Korn, they're hiring me to come in and perform. You know what I mean? To kick ass. So there was not room for air. And also now, we're beyond the club and bar days. We're talking headline tours, 60, 80,000 people. They have a new drummer, Ray Luzier, who's this like ridiculously talented virtuoso that I'm playing next to every night, where if you get off a little bit, he's like, come on, man. So like, it was like, I had to elevate my game. So I was terrified. I had a lot of anxiety and, I had to breathe into the fear. And like, before we took the stage, I was very, very, very anxious. So I learned what stage fright was big time. Which is great. But the other part is I was present. I became a way better player and I was really present for those moments. And, there was also a deeper aspect too, which was I lost my career in music while being actively addicted. And they say, a life beyond your wildest dreams. So I viewed the Korn gig entirely as a result of being a sober and recovered musician. They wanted me because I was sober. And so that made it like a spiritual experience every night. It was like, thank you, God, for this experience and help me get through these nerves I'm having. And hopefully I don't play like shit,
So afterwards, did you guys get together? What was the after like? You guys were known before to be a party band. What do the sober bands do when they're done? Are they out there like the Slipknots and that? Is that more of what you experience? Everybody out just writing music, practicing, getting ready for the next gig?
Well, by now the bands we were playing with that we grew up together are all pretty dang successful, and so people are entrepreneurs. They got families. They don't have to sit in the hotel room all day broke. It's like, I'm going to rent a car and go over here. I'm going to fly home and see my family. I got a business meeting because I'm launching a clothing line. And so people get kind of into their own thing, so it's, my experience is more like you have a little bit of hang time, like, hey, what's up, Corey? You talk for 15 minutes and then everybody's on their way. And then by then, people have wives and serious girlfriends and kids. Nobody wants a bunch of people backstage. So it was pretty sparse and uninhabited there. So it was a very chill experience.
Isn't it amazing how many hours there are actually in a day when you're sober and how much you can accomplish and all the things?
My friend says, backstage now isn't like what you think it is. It's just a bunch of older guys asking each other, hey, do I look fat in these pants? That's so accurate.
I love it. I love it. So it sounds like that it was a great experience and you grew and you got to learn to face feelings and fears. And how did you deal with some of them? Were you still doing a lot of meditation? Yeah.
Well, the 12 steps as it is a design for living. And I had some sober time. I made it to like 2 years, 11 months, and then I relapsed. And so when I came back, it was like, okay, what am I going to do differently? Well, I'm not going to slack on my daily routine. What I do that keeps me there. It's not like launching a satellite. You're in orbit and you're just cool cruising up there. It's like, no, I got to keep launching every day, so to speak, and keep active. So, because I learned that lesson and I heralded and cherished the Korn gigs so much, I was very, adamant that I'm going to stay on this routine, and that was a lot of fun. I went to meetings in Hong Kong and I went to meetings in India where they don't speak English and the 12 steps are in Sanskrit. And, I went to meetings everywhere and stayed with my prayer and meditation and my, jogging and healthy activities. And so it's just like, it's a design for living I just do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think it's like showering, any personal development, because people will say, "Wow, do you feel like you've arrived?" And I'm like, personal development's like bathing. Like you don't just do it once and you're done. You gotta,
Totally.
do it pretty regularly. So,
And I have like a metaphor I made up for the speaking gig I did, and it's really like thinking of launching a rocket if you think about it, because maybe it just feels like, so what, I read a little book in the morning and I meditated, what difference did I make? Yeah, but that 1 degree over
mhm.
a long period of time puts your rocket ship in a total other galaxy. Then, at first it looks like they're not too divergent, and then over time you have a completely different destination.
Yeah. Yeah. It's powerful. So, speaking of completely different galaxy, you are
Hmm.
on a whole new path these days. And I'm so excited about what you're doing. In fact, you're coming up on your 10-year anniversary of kicking off this project. So, talk to us a little bit about what you're doing today and what your life looks like, and what's your mission, vision, values?
Mission, vision, value. Wow, I haven't
Yeah.
heard that one before, but I think it's probably popular. Say,
It's
so
it's probably my corporate my my corporate life.
it works. When the corn gig was going away because the guy I was filling in for came back to the band, Brian Head Welch, I was really lost and I was really falling into self-pity. Like, here it is. I'm this rock star guy making some good money, finally doing this dream career at the highest level. And now I'm going to lose it. And back to I have no career or letters behind my name. What do I do? I went back to that design for living, which is again, prayer and meditation, and feeling lost. What else did I have? And the thing was, I came to the realization, okay, well, I don't think I'm put here to suffer and have a
Mhm,
shitty life. Although sometimes it felt like it, because it's just sometimes life is so tough.
mhm,
By now I've had how many jobs, how many careers, how many bands, and I'm starting over at whatever, late 30s, early 40s. So it was like, all right, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, not important to me. If I'm supposed to be sober, clearly, and I've been drawn to be a musician, that's my heart and my passion in my soul. Therefore, spiritual. How do I help people and make a living? And that
mhm,
was the key, which I was only taught because of recovery. Because when you're in a band, you're not like, how can I help? Well, I'm not. How can I help people? I'm like, buy a t-shirt, come to our show. What do you think? Did I play good tonight? And so I came up with this idea, remembering my time in rehab, to bring music into treatment centers. So the idea came, when the seed was planted, because when I was in the treatment center, we have 22 guys, and different degrees of shame and guilt and self-loathing and insecurity, and your life's destroyed. And you're like, that's my homie. He's a weirdo. Fuck that guy. You know what I mean? And that's how it is in there for pretty much everybody. Um, and they had us drawing pictures with crayons. Okay, cool. And then doing yoga, and the guys would just fart and not take it seriously. And but when I would break out my guitar and play just one simple campfire chord, it would change the whole energy of the room. And that stuck with me. Like, we
mm,
already know how powerful music is, but I saw in that setting firsthand, play a silly little country riff, and even the cool guys would start doing a two-step, goofing around.
hmm,
So with the loss of the corn gig on the horizon, it was like, let me see if I can bring music into treatment and change that. So the mission, vision, whatever you said, was to help proliferate the use of playing music as a healing and transformative force in the world. So that's what I did. But here's the thing: I pitched this idea for probably 6 or 8 months before I finally got somebody to say yes. So it was basically like, hey, I want to bring music to treatment centers. Here's my day. They're like, wow, that sounds great. Oh, cool. You want to hire me? No, we do not. And it was no, no, no. But how many times have we heard the story? So
mhm,
for anybody out there, it was no, 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 no. And why I kept going, uh, probably just desperation. There's, in the literature, it says, we do this stuff out of desperation, not virtue. Yeah, it sounds cool to think like, oh, Wes is such a great guy. He created a music program to help people. Okay, really? I was desperate and I needed a freaking paycheck, and it was all I could think of to do. Thank God I had enough of the teaching to want to help people as part of it. And so, yeah, I did the first sessions and I was scared. I thought people might be like, screw you with your guitars, get out of here. Actually, one guy kind of was. He was dope sick, and he couldn't sleep. He was defecating himself. He was kind of suicidal ideation. And I talked to him about the idea and the concept of what we're doing and writing a song about how we feel in our hearts and our emotions in that moment. And he bought in. And by the end of the session, he was elated. He went from fuck you, Wes, guitars, I'm trying to save my life, I'm gonna die a junkie, to the end. He was like, you're coming back next week, right? Elated. He was happy. And so what stuck with me then was, it wasn't just the measures of wellness and hope and well-being and all that changing. It was also, he physically was transformed from physical illness through playing music. And this was just with a little shaker, a little yeah. So once I was having success in witnessing it, it was, can I scale this thing? And so I started grabbing some of my musician friends who had, like Sonny Mayo, who I toured with in Snot. He actually played in Head PE for a while towards the end. And he was the first sober musician I ever knew who would tour sober. So I called him up. He's like, I want to get in on that. And from then we just have kept growing it. And now we'll have 18 people on our team soon, doing 600 sessions a month. We've worked with well over 200 treatment programs. And we have a nonprofit, and we donate services to places like Friendly House and Claire Foundation. And we even have a contract with the Department of Defense working with wounded warriors. We're in our 6th year, and they fly us around the world working with wounded warriors and their caregivers. Because as we know, just like alcoholism is addiction, the people who aren't directly affected are indirectly affected as well. So we work with those populations. Mental health, addiction, sex trauma, behavioral disorders, we go everywhere.
That's amazing. And the government has picked up on this, Department of Defense. I mean, that's
It's a big deal. It's a big deal for a guy who barely graduated high school. But it's all, that's why I love to share my story. Sometimes I say it's not my story, it's our story. It's the recovery community's story of how these transformations can happen. Now, not everybody wants to do AA, nor do they need to, and you don't have to. There's other ways. For me, I do 12 steps. The point is, it's like together, why would I do it alone when I could have this massive worldwide family to help and support me through stuff they've already been through? I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I have a worldwide support group, and it's proven to be extremely effective.
The program, when you go into a facility or when you're working, do you do one-on-one and working with groups?
Yes, but the primary model is we are integrated as part of the treatment curriculum of a treatment program. So we work with IOP, outpatient programs, of course, but we work with a lot of residential. So for example, for those that may or may not know, if you go to a residential program, they're like 9 a.m. you meditate, 10 a.m. you go to a meeting, 11 a.m. you meet your therapist, and then whatever, at 1 p.m. Rock to Recovery. We're there every week.
So you take the group through, I mean, is it is it a curriculum that you've developed, or what does that look like?
We have a curriculum, but we kind of adapt it to each treatment center and let it kind of be free flowing. But what it looks like is we're in the group setting. Sorry, I didn't answer it clearly last time, but we're in the group setting. So we take however many clients they have there in this given program, could be 3, could be 30, and we connect. Of course, we have a pitch and a spiel to tell people so they understand why we're showing up with instruments and the clinical efficacy and the science behind what playing music does as opposed to singing. As opposed to listening. So like when we listen to music, it engages half our brain. And that's the part where we're like, music's so magical. Well, when we play music, it engages our whole brain and on a whole other level helps with serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, which is the love molecule. So we kind of explain and get them to buy into the clinical efficacy of it. And then we get into a topic that we can discuss in real time. The concept is that songs are thoughts and feelings put to music. That's what they are. It's funny because participants might say, well, I don't know how to write lyrics, but I wrote a poem. We're like, well, that's pretty much what a song is. You know what I mean? Or some people will just have a journal entry and they'll just recite spoken word over music we do. But we form a band with the clients and we write, perform, and record a song in each session.
That the individuals in the group, they are actually writing the song.
Writing, playing, everything. So I'm kind of maybe not as clear and concise as it could be in the flow today, but yeah. So the thing I figured out how to do is I could walk in a room and take 10 people who've never played, or maybe a couple of them have a little bit, and show them how to write, sing, and play. And in our groups, I'd say 99% of the time, everybody's singing and playing, because we just have this down to, dare I call it, a science.
Do you ever get people that are nervous? They say,
Oh.
I can't sing, I don't have a good voice. And then all the time.
Every group, nobody wants to sing. Go into any room of any people, and 99% of them will say, I ain't singing, and especially in treatment. Oh, hell no. I mean, think about in treatment, people are anxious, self-loathing, lack of confidence. No, sure, there's the once in a while guy who's like, yo, dog, I'm gonna rap for you. Okay, cool. But the vast majority of people are terrified.
Yeah.
And one thing, this is a great kind of way to segue, is sometimes when we'd be out there pitching, especially in the early days of rock recovery, people would say, oh yeah, this sounds fun. Okay, how about transformative? How about challenging? How about terrifying? How about connective? How about when they get done, they're going to say, holy shit, I did something I didn't think I could do.
Mm-hmm.
How many times has an addict or alcoholic done that? Usually their life is like underperforming. So to start something and go, I'm terrified, I don't think I can do this. Let's work as a group to do something that we don't think can be done. And they go, wow, it's an elation, and it's a team building exercise. So it's so multifaceted on the layers it helps. And it's cathartic. You're getting emotions out as well.
And the feelings, if feelings is scary. And when you do it in that environment and everybody's doing the same thing, I think there's a way to face some of your, what you've been running from.
Absolutely.
So.
And when you're again, going back to like how I saw it affect the room when I was in treatment, the other thing we have to consider, and I'm sure there's a lot of healthcare professionals that may check this out, is that all day long, talking about your feeling and relapse prevention, and talk to your therapist and own up and go to your sponsor and do this. It's like, the music in that setting is like a drug. It's transformative. I've watched people come in crying because their friend just OD'd and leave giggling. And in that sense, we're not running from our feelings. I don't know a drug that can be so transformative and mood altering.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Even an antidepressant or whatever, it takes some time to take effect. If you're depressed and feel like shit and you're miserable and you drink or smoke weed or take acid, you're probably going to carry a lot of that energy in there. And by the way, it's not therapeutic, so to speak. So we see this, really transformational. And to use like a little story is like, I had a kid come into a group once. He's like, oh man, I can't do this group. Actually, he wasn't smoking yet. He goes, I can't do this group today. I'm too stressed out, man. My mom and this and my job. And I was like, it's like, right. Okay. Well, if you can't do the group, fine. Yes, you can go smoke a cigarette, but guess what's going to happen when you smoke a cigarette? You're going to go like this. This is so fucked. I'm so fucked. My life is fucked. That's what you're going to do. You come in here, you bring that energy and that emotion in the music, you put it into the drums, you sing with us and get it out. You're going to have a transformation. You're going to feel better on the other side.
And did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet he did.
So that's how we get, we've been doing this lineup. Like you said, we've been doing it 10 years. Yeah. We've written 30,000 songs. We do 600 sessions a month. We have a lot of experience in this arena and the little ways to maneuver in the realm.
Are you expanding your business? If people came and said, hey, we want to get on with Rock to Recovery, are you expanding, and how does all that look?
Yeah, we're always growing. Haven't been a guy who gave guitar lessons and made $100 to teach a guy a guitar for an hour, but then you realize that model's hard because the people flake and you can't get enough clients. I really brought that kind of understanding in here. We have a very niche group that has to be highly talented, big hearts, hold a room. And so for us to be successful, we can't deal with a high turnover or attrition of employees. And basically, most people who work for Rock Recovery never leave. So with that in mind, we want to be in a location or a region that can give enough work to somebody to really be sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
At first, we were like, let's be nationwide. And I just felt like while the intention of that might be inevitable or a good thing, a good intention, it's just right now I'm just going, we're just taking it slow. We're constantly growing. We are from basically the border of Mexico all the way up to Santa Barbara. We have people up in Frisco and Gilroy area. We have program activity in Oregon, and we have it in Nashville, and I'm cool with that. There's no need to be greedy. It's about infrastructure. And one thing I left off, which was part of my prayer and discussion with the universe, was kind of like, hey, there's been a lot of talented guitar players out there. Whoopie doo. I want to create something that can help people long after I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it's, you see a lot of things get too big and sell, they get corporate or whatever and they implode. My desire is like when I'm dead and gone, this thing keeps going on helping people. And people are like, who Wes Geer is? No, who's that? Man, see, exactly. It's bigger than me.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, we love what you're doing. And there is still a way to get involved, even if you aren't in any of the California locations or along the West Coast. And that's once a year. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's once a year. You have a gathering in LA, and talk about that event, because that's a big, spectacular event.
So having a nonprofit, we wanted to fund it and be able to grow the reach of our services. And so that turned into having a concert, and we honor sober musicians and sober celebrities who can share their story. Like, hey, you maybe don't know, I've won 3 Emmys and I'm actually sober, and I wouldn't have ever been a prolific actor had I not got sober. What? And we made it a sober event, and about half the people that come to the event are sober, who are actively in treatment. So you can imagine, you go, okay, fine, I'll go to rehab. I was vomiting blood 2 weeks ago. And then next thing you know, they're going to a concert watching Moby up there say, hey, I've been sober however many years, and I wouldn't have the career I have if I didn't get sober. And like, wait, you can have a bright, colorful, brilliant A-list concert event totally sober. So that's what we do. And it's been one of the greatest blessings. I love to go out in the audience and talk to the newcomers who are in the room, who are just having their minds blown on how bright and colorful recovery is, because we all come in thinking it's going to be this horrible, muted, dull, boring thing. It's just not true.
Yeah. And it's an opposite message from what you get from the legal system, or, when you get in trouble with the law, and, just the way people look down a lot of times on this population. So to come in and be lifted up and say, we see you, we celebrate you, you're on a great journey. What a different experience. Yeah. So, and anyone can attend this event.
Anybody can come. Rock Recovery 5. We just had it. We honored Jay Moore and Keith David, and we will have it in August. I can't recall the date, next year. And before then, though it's not a sober event, we have our 10-year anniversary fundraiser happening on, I founded the organization on 12/12 of 12. So on 12/11 of 22, one day technically before our 10-year anniversary, we'll have a fundraiser event, sit down dinner with some amazing comedians over at the Avalon and in Hollywood. Avalon, beautiful theater. It's gonna be awesome. The food's really good. The comedians are amazing. We don't throw crappy events. Our events are always really good.
I've heard good things. I'm going to have to go to this next one. So, Wes, we love what you're doing. This is so inspiring. I'm going to ask one last question, and then we'll wrap it up. And if someone is out there, they're listening to you today, and they are in that, beginning phases, or, maybe they're just sober curious, or maybe they're in their first 30 days or whatever that may be. What is one piece of information that you would pass along to these folks as a word of encouragement, or something that worked really well for you?
I had to realize that a lot of what my brain was telling me was just absolutely untrue, that my life wasn't over if I gave up substances, drugs, alcohol. It was actually holding me back in so many ways I couldn't see. And what we realize is we're not actually letting go of a part of us, which it feels like when we let go of addiction or partying or whatever you want to call it. We're actually becoming our truest selves. And so, what's on the other side truly is miraculous. And what I think that so many people don't understand is that this isn't about just stopping an abstinence. It's about letting go of the thing that's been holding us back our whole life, learning to feel, learning to evolve into the best versions of ourselves. And that journey and trajectory is limitless. It never stops. So, and by the way, I got to get one more plug in here. We wrote a book. If you're looking for a little hope, this is 18 vignettes, short stories on people who've had miraculous transformations. Music as a catalyst for human transformation. So these are people who had addiction or sex trauma or wounded warriors who had an incredible transformation, and music was a part of it, by the way. So if you're looking for a book of hope, it's out there. It's on Amazon, Rock to Recovery.
Okay.
And there you go.
Excellent. So go out to Amazon, get yourself a copy of this book.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure to include all the links. Make sure you go out to Instagram. I've actually seen some of the sessions, I guess, some of the songs that you guys do with the groups, and it looks like a lot of fun. So if you are listening, go out, go follow, and get involved, and make sure to track these events that are coming up annually. August next year, we will be on the lookout, hopefully at the event as well. Thank you.
We already talked about it. You're there.
Yes, we did. So super excited. Make sure you get plugged in. And Wes, thank you for really following this vision, this purpose, and continuing to be persistent, even when you hear the no's, because a lot of times we get those no's, but you were given a vision that nobody else did. And you're the only one that can push that one forward. So, and we're super proud of you. So
honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you so much.
Excellent. All right. Well, this is Recovery Today magazine. I am Jen Sugarmeyer, and we are here with Wes Geer, and we are signing off. We'll see you next time. Cheers.